think, uh-oh. All right, I think we've got it.
And you record this and show them later?
Yeah, so I usually like to record it and then I'll upload it to Goodreads so that they can see what we chatted about.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
hold on. This audio is killing me because I think it's not right for you. So give me a second because I want to make sure, okay?
okay. And you can hear me okay, right?
I can hear you great.
Okay,
I don't use Skype very often, so I guess if you tell me you can hear me, then we're good.
I can hear you great, actually. Super clear.
Okay. Did Lindsay tell you I don't have as much time as I thought?
Yes.
Okay.
She said about 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so,
let me tell you something funny that's going to happen.
Okay.
Is that in about 12 minutes, my daughter's going to run through that door because she likes to scare me, and it's going to scare the crap out of me, and y'all are going to get to see it, but I'll just be like, hey, babe, give me a few more minutes. So there we go.
I'm so excited.
So I'm calling it now. That's going to happen.
I love that. All right. We'll time it. All right. Ready. Okay. So, hi. Thank you for sitting down with me. I know that I'm just some random girl and I have a very small book club, and I'm so thankful that, you are taking the time out of your really busy day and busy life to just chat. And I just wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit and get to know you more. And yeah.
I love that. And I love that you do this. I mean, you're like the best book club leader ever.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm trying so hard.
You are.
This is my second interview, actually, so I'm a little rusty, but I mean, I just kind of try to sit down and just keep it casual because I don't want anything to be like super structured or anything. But my name is Jessie, by the way.
Jessie.
And I am the creator / moderator, I guess, of Perusing with a Purpose. We're just a small book club that meets online. So we have ladies from around the world that just chat it up, and we talk about a different book each month. And your book happens to be our April read, which we just finished. So,
good.
Yeah, and they loved it, and I love this book so much. It is on one of my favorites. It's on my favorites list now. So
thank you very much.
Fantastic, wonderful. So I want to give you a little bit of time to kind of just introduce yourself and tell us about your hobbies, tell us about your family. I know we kind of read your little your life in a nutshell, but just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Here, look, I'll show you. Here's my family. I'm going to pull this off my desk. This was a Christmas card this year. So here's my people.
Aww. What a beautiful family you have.
I do like them. So I live in Austin, Texas with my husband, Aaron. He's a worship pastor here in town at our church. And we have 4 kids that I just showed you. My oldest is in high school, a freshman. And then I have 2 boys in 7th grade and 1 daughter in 5th grade. So we're about to move out of my last year of elementary school, which is super exciting for me. I'm ready. I like the big stuff. Yes. And I released this book that you guys just read last year. So January 30th of 2018, it came out. And I have a host a podcast called The Happy Hour with Jamie Ivey. And I release a show every Wednesday. And that we are about to celebrate on May 9th, our 5-year anniversary. So I've been doing that for 5 years.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I get to travel and speak to ladies' events and churches and conferences and love it. And so this is fun to talk with you guys.
That's so awesome. Yeah, thanks for your introduction. Yeah, so like I said, we loved your book, and I'm basically going to ask you just like general questions, nothing too deep or anything. But so my first question for you is like, what made you decide to write the book? Like, why'd you decide to just put your life out there?
It's funny, Jessie, because I have wanted to write a book for lots and lots and lots of years. Mm-hmm. But writing is not the path that God took me down at first. I became a podcaster, and I love my podcasting job, but I always wanted to share my story because I remember probably about 7 years ago, I wrote on my blog some of my story for the first time. And I remember the reaction I would get from women of just, wow, I can't believe that you are okay with saying this. Aren't you embarrassed? Or I would speak at women's retreats and share about what God had done in my life. And people would come up to me and say, wow, that must be so hard to say. And I started to realize that my story is not hard for me to share because I see what God's done. Like he's changed me. He's made me a new creation. He's moved in my life. And these are things that I've done. They don't define who I am, but I also know that I didn't always feel that way. And so I knew that I wanted to share my journey of going from feeling how those women were feeling when they would hear me to now where I am, where I can confidently say, here's where I've been. And so that's kind of where this book came from. I like to call this the book, like if you only get one book to write, which I'm writing another one right now, but if you only get one book, this is what I wanted to say. Like, this is what I would want to say. If God were to take me home tomorrow, I'd be super happy with what I got to say. So that's kind of where that book came from, of just wanting to explain to women how I feel the way I feel about what God's done in my life and the hope that I want them to have as well.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I loved reading about your journey in the book because it was just so, I don't know, I felt like I could relate to a lot of it. And I know that some of the girls in the book club could definitely relate a lot to it. And so I'll get to that in a second, but I'm kind of ask you a little bit more about like your writing process. So like, how did you, or like, what was the first chapter that you wrote? If it wasn't chapter one, did you, I know that people skip around sometimes, or like, what did you like for sure say, this has to be in my book first, or I have to put this here?
You know, the funny thing is that I had a lot of this book written before I ever got a book contract. I've been writing parts of my story down just for my own self for years and years and years. And so honestly, there are some parts of this book that I wrote 6 years ago. Now, of course, they were redone and moved around and that type of thing. So I don't remember what the first thing I wrote was, which is kind of crazy. But it's because I've been working on this for a long time without even knowing that it was going to be a book. I've just been writing down parts of my story. So I can't even tell you what I wrote first. I have no idea.
So is there like anything, I'm skipping around on my questions here, but is there anything that you maybe like left out of your book that you wish you wrote about, or like, are you kind of touching on that in your new book? How did you go about like picking parts of your life of like what you wanted to display in your book?
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to tell my story pre-Jesus. I knew I wanted to talk about my life then, and I knew I wanted to talk about my salvation and Jesus saving me, and then I knew I wanted to talk about the shame that I kind of walked through. But honestly, that only gets you up into, that doesn't cover the last 10, 12 years of my life. And so this, what I wrote in here happened 20 years ago. And so for me, as I was writing the book, something became very clear to me as I didn't want the book to only be 20 years ago, because I didn't want it to seem like, oh, Jesus did this in my life and now I never struggle with this anymore.
Right.
And I felt that would have been a false representation of the Christian life. And so that's where those last kind of 3 chapters came in. And, you know, just talking about the writing process, I remember one of the hardest things for me was feeling as though the book was 2 parts. Like it was this story of pre-Jesus, Jesus saving me, walking through shame. And then the last half was kind of a little bit more teaching-esque. And the first part was more memoir-esque. And I didn't want that gap to be there. And I think we bridged it pretty well. But I knew I didn't want to stop at 20 years ago, because I wanted the reader to know that this is something that I still deal with. Like, I still need community. I still need to be reminded that I have worth and value and my identity is in Him alone. So that was important to me. And I hope that came through within the book reading of the book too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It did. And I look at different, we read a lot of different books. And so with your book, I love how like blunt your writing is. You know, you're not playing around.
Thanks.
So, and I love that, because there's a lot of books that I have read where it's just like a lot of cookie cutter things or sugar coated situations. And so like throughout your book, you talk about like the topics that a lot of people don't want to really talk about, you know, whether it's drinking or sex or whatever it may be. So I'm really thankful that you covered that, because I know that I can relate to that when I was in high school and early college. Like, I was so ashamed of who I was because of those same things. Reading your story, I was like, oh my gosh, like, and this lady is like, she's such a passionate person for Jesus now. And I feel like a lot of us girls can look at that and say, you know, we came from a place similar to that, and now we can really be like an advice giver or someone who, you know, is like Jamie, like where we can just be like, yeah, that's my story, and now this is where I'm at. So
Yeah, I love that.
yeah, it's so amazing. So going forward now, is there any advice that you could give somebody who is still going through, you know, the struggles of maybe drinking or maybe sex before marriage or whatever it may be? What would be your advice now? Like, I know you kind of touched on it in your book, but I wanted to kind of like talk it out.
Yeah, I think those are all symptoms of a bigger problem. And so, you know, having sex before you're married or drinking before you're of age or excessive drinking, no matter what age you are. Or just, you know, sexual things within when you're married, you know, someone can still struggle with these things. I think they're kind of a symptom of a deeper problem. And I know when I was younger and going through these things, it was about not understanding my identity. And I wouldn't say that I was a follower of Jesus either. I think I knew a lot about him and I knew the right things to say, but I definitely don't think that he had like captured my heart and I wanted to follow him and like do everything for the Lord because there was no fruit. There was no evidence in my life that that was true. And so, you know, looking at young girls today, I think there is that. It's like such an old woman when I say that too. Like looking at the young people these days, I think there is this deeper need, you know, and me being someone who knows God, knows that we do have a void in our heart. Like we do have a need to be known. Like my need to be known that I felt then and that I feel now is all because it's for the Lord to be known by him. And he does that for us and he can do that for us. But I think that it's hard to understand that at a young age if you're not willing to look toward the Lord for that, because it's hard even at 40 to go, okay, God, I know you're here. Like, I know you're here. But at 15, you're like, okay, I know you're here, but so is this guy. And this is a way more tangible way for me to feel loved. And so we settle for second best, you know, we settle for what will make us feel the moment right then, whether that is a relationship, a substance, food, TV, whatever it might be. We will take second best because we feel as though we get satisfied easier, faster in the moment, rather than letting God really do what he's supposed to do for us. And still today, like, this is not like I'm like saying, oh, I know how to fix this. I mean, I do, but I still have to remind myself of that as well. That's what I think is important for us to realize is that although my struggles look different than they did when I was 15, I still have struggles I have to let my husband and my friends in on, and they have permission to call me out on. It's just not the same as it was at 15. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh.
Amen to that.
Right? Yes. And if it is the same, if you're watching it is the same, it's okay. God can still take care of that for you. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Listen to her. Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And kind of going along with this, I have like there's two specific parts in your book that really resonated with me. So the first one was you were mentioning, I wish I wrote this down, but you mentioned about how your Instagram, instead of it being like a family scrapbook, it turned into something that you wanted to please other people with. So again, I know you touched on that a little bit in your book. So right now I'm actually on like a Instagram hiatus, I guess you could say.
Good for you.
For my 24th birthday, I gifted myself with some rest because I felt like I was doing the same thing, but I didn't stop I stopped doing that before I read that part in your book. And when I read that part in your book, I was like, oh, holy crap. Like I'm doing this exact thing. Like that's how I felt. I kept focusing on followers and things like that. So I know that's a huge issue in our society today. And I know that I have some friends and some ladies in the book club who, you know, struggle with that and struggle with the image they put off. So what did you do to overcome that? And like, how would you go about that now in your life when it comes to social media?
I just took off for social media for all of Lent. And so I just had a big break. So this is fresh on my mind, Jessie. And I'm just back, I guess, last week. And, you know, and I didn't even come back till like last Wednesday. So I think it's a real big struggle. And it's a struggle for myself that I have to have people speak into as well. One of the things that I just like some practical things about dealing with social media and Instagram. Unfollow, unfollow. I go through seasons all the time where I will just go through and just unfollow. If you feel like you can't unfollow them because it's like your cousin and her feelings might get hurt, then you can mute them so you don't ever see anything they put up.
Oh, right.
Yes. And I like to say, like, to women, just to encourage them, if you're struggling with social media, it's not the other person's fault, because we want to be like, well, if she wouldn't just post things like that, or she's being fake, so I can't handle it, or whatever. She. Actually, it's like me, and we need to deal with our own heart with this. And that's why that's why I always like to say, guarding your heart takes work. And guarding your heart is important. And so if you need to unfollow your cousin or your aunt or your neighbor or somebody that you've known forever, you have to do what you have to do to guard your own heart. And maybe you just need a little break. And I loved my fast that I just did from Instagram. And I think I'll do it a handful of times a year. It was really good for my soul. It was really good it was like a refocus of, why am I on here? What do I use it for? And I want to use it for inspiration and motivation and to point people to Jesus. And I think that I do that. But it can become a little bit more about me than about Jesus super easily. And so I'm all for the Instagram breaks. So good for you.
Amen to that.
Amen.
We're speaking truth here. All right, everybody. So the second part that I really loved in your book, you were talking about your, I want to say it's your prison ministry that you have, or is it jail? I don't know which one.
It's a jail.
Jail ministry, yeah. So I love the part, and it's on page 160. I actually wrote this one down. So it's basically, you're talking about Rachel, who had lived her life as a prostitute. And I love this part where you're just like, I refuse for you to judge her because you don't know her world. And I was like, oh, I wrote down in my book, mic drop. Like, I love how, like I said, how blunt you are.
Hold on real quick.
Okay.
Say hi, and I'm on an interview. Hurry, say hi. Say hi real quick. It's being recorded.
Hi.
Okay, go in the house. I'll be there in just a second.
Oh.
Okay, carry on.
You called it. Your mic is sounding a little ruffly. Is there?
Mine is?
Do I sound funny to you?
No. Do I sound funny to you?
Yeah, it might be.
Oh, now I can't hear you. Wait, go back over there, babe.
Okay, hold on.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I did a headphone swap. Oops.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay.
Does it sound bad?
It's like a little muffly, but I don't know if it's on my side. I don't know. Hopefully it won't sound like that during the recording.
Take your trick. See, hold on.
Okay.
This is what I was concerned about, because I don't use Skype that often, so I just don't know if you're getting my... Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, this is... No, it's coming out of here. Okay, everything should be out of here. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh.
No, it's fine. It probably won't. It might be my headphones because they're kind of wonky, but I don't think. Hopefully, it won't come in the recording. But if not, I just wanted to make sure you can hear me and stuff.
I can hear you just fine.
All right.
Okay, Rachel, mic drop.
Yes. So what made you kind of? I don't know if this was like a decision or anything that you like really put a lot of thought into, but your tone of the book is very like blunt, straightforward. Like, I'm your friend and I'm going to give you advice. Like, what kind of made you decide to make your book more so that way, in a sense, if that makes sense? Because I love it so much.
Well, thanks. I think that's how I communicate mostly, and I did want it to feel as though you were sitting down with a friend. I think I have that kind of mindset for my podcast. I want my podcast to feel as though you are at a happy hour with girlfriends. And so I want my podcast to feel as though it's a bunch of girlfriends sitting around chatting. And I think that I wanted to take that same tone into the book. Like, I want you to feel as though you were just sitting down having a conversation with me. Um, I also, like, when you think about that specific instance with Rachel, I had to open up a book to see. I think one of the things that I think can bother me sometimes is when women, if I were to tell a story about Rachel as a prostitute, sometimes women would think, well, this doesn't apply to me because I've never been a prostitute.
Yeah, exactly.
Or she's choosing this lifestyle, so she deserves this. And I think that we could all probably be guilty of thinking that until you've actually interacted with someone who's in different shoes than you. And so I think I never really thought about my tone there being like so blunt, but it kind of is, I guess, when I read it. But I just want people to know, like, we're just all here doing our best.
Yeah,
Even Rachel, like, you know, and this wasn't, no one signs up to be a prostitute. It's just how her life turned out. And she still has value, and she still can be a follower of Jesus, and he can change her heart and change her life and all those things. So I just wanted to feel like girlfriends chatting.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's one thing that I really love about your book is how I just felt like I was able to not only relate to a lot of the things that you mentioned, but also just read and have peace in my heart knowing how genuine you are as a person, because that comes through your book, truly.
Thank you.
So we can go ahead and wrap up a bit. I have one more thing for you. So the way that you reflect on everything you went through was just so powerful, and it was really resonating with me and the book club members, you know, who have been through these kind of things or who know people who have struggled with these kind of things. So as your last little word, or if you could describe your book, overall theme, message, whatever it is that we should take from your book, what is it?
I think I've thought about that often, of when people close this book, you know, what do I want them to walk away with? And I think as authors, that's kind of our mindset as we're writing, is what do we want to be the takeaway from this? And since my story is very memoir-esque, because there's a lot of my story from my early 20s, the fear in me was that people would walk away knowing more about me. And I wanted to make sure that that wasn't what they walked away with. Of course, I used my story and stories from my life, but what I wanted people to walk away with was a story about a girl who made a lot of bad choices, and God chased her and loved her relentlessly, and that's what he does for all of us. And so I wanted, what I've heard a lot from people, which is one of the highest compliments ever, is I saw myself in your story. And the thing that is weird about writing this is growing up in church, getting pregnant twice, following Jesus and becoming a wife to a pastor. That's not everybody's story, but everyone still says, I saw myself in there. And I love that, because it means that we're seeing ourselves as human people who need Jesus and see that he comes for us. And so that's what I want people to see, is that we serve a really big God who chases us and loves us no matter what, and pursues us and restores us and gives us new life, and that Jesus is better than everything. That's what I want people to see.
So powerful. I love that.
Good.
I love that you say, you know, God chasing after us, no matter what we're going through, no matter what. Love that.
Yeah, because he does. He does.
Yeah, truly. But yeah, that's all I've got for you. But thank you so much for sitting down with me.
You're so welcome. Thank you guys for reading my book.
Yeah, of course. And I would love to remain connected with you if we can. I know you're super busy, but I can send you the link where your video will show up once I get it uploaded and everything. But yeah, so
sounds great. And thank you guys for reading. And y'all keep reading, because you know what I always say, readers are leaders. So there we go.
I love that. Love that so much.
Bye, Jessie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.